Good morning there. You're watching QTV this morning, and I am Jenna Bosonko here with Mr. Momodu Mboch, my co-host. Good morning. And Mr. Ka, our newspaper review guest. And we hope that all of you had an amazing Eid. Ramadan is over. Now we're back to our normal routines. So how do you feel, Mr. Mboch? Ramadan is over. How did you spend your Eid? How was your Eid?
I had a sort of quiet Eid.
You usually have a quiet Eid.
Sort of, every day, it's sort of like the same, really.
Yeah.
So I never have any change of gear, as it were. Is it age? Is it just a phase? I have no idea what's going on. Time will tell.
Okay.
But it wasn't unhappy. It was good.
Yeah, just
nice,
take it correct.
Positive feelings.
Why am on Gambo Bijuli?
No, foog naa passé nañ loolu.
Waaye mu ngi julli nag moom.
For the kids.
Nga
fu mu nekk xale yi ñoo day jël so much.
waaye Mr. Ka daal ragal naa ne amoon na mbubi julli nag. Mr. Ka mi maa gis muy smile nii Mr. Ka amoon nga mbubi julli.
dama recycle rek.
Da nga recycle. Okay.
Mindset bi is not su ma amee man awma time su ma amee lu ees rek sanse ko.
Waaw.
amul julli o no julli.
Waaw.
Lots of friends they want lu ees daal enjoy ko rek.
Enjoy ko.
You cannot postpone tomorrow, you don't know
what's gonna come up. Monday man sa awma woon mbubi julli because I plan to, because of schedule. Balanga yobu si ñawkat bi ak yoyu noonu. It comes with a lot of stress.
Dang ko dey plan way
Dang ko
ahead.
dey plan way ahead, which is a bit stressful now with everything. But fekkee ko moo gën a am solo. Te yal nañ ko fekkee at yu bare parce que julli nañ si jaama. And throughout julli bi gis nañ ne xutba yi, speeches yu am yëpp, it was all centered around unity and peace in the country. Ak also ñu seet naka lañ mun a lessen corruption tamit si dëkk bi because nekk na loo xam ne moo tax poverty bi di gën a continuer xonga buñ nekk di am si biir dëkk bi so dafa mel ni ñoom ñëpp dañ amoon a unified direction this Eid bu ma dégloo the different sermons ak speeches yu ma gisoon si Eid bi throughout so yeah that's it. So moving on, let's head right on to our proverb or quote. So this is a Swahili proverb, and it says, "You cannot turn the wind, so turn your sail." You cannot turn the wind, so turn your sail. A Swahili proverb.
What cannot be helped must be endured.
Yes.
So because it's just a fact that, if you cannot really influence or change something, well, sometimes they say you have to just join it. If you cannot change it, join it from the inside to see what you can do. So when you are sailing in a boat and the wind is sailing against you, it's very difficult to go forward. So you have to master the art of how you manipulate or manage or integrate yourself into that pattern in order to go, or to manage it. Otherwise, you become damaged goods. So it's not easy, but it's something that you have to be able to learn how to fit yourself into a situation that is very difficult and adapt. Essentially, is to adapt to circumstances.
That's really the
I think
word.
it's the bottom line.
Yes.
Adapting to changing situations at any particular time, which is generally a very big challenge for people, to adapt to things, especially in the Gambia. We're used to, when we get used to doing things a certain way, sometimes you even hear people, oh, former President Jammeh Bumfineke, this is how he was doing it. But now there's a new administration, there are new policies, there are reforms, changes have to come. So change is often very challenging for people to accept.
Absolutely, people don't like change.
Yeah.
Often change is sort of forced. Almost by sort of external circumstances, if you know what I mean. Because left to me alone, I like my comfort zone. People are just like that. So really, circumstances force us to change in many ways.
But in this day and age, with the evolution of technology, science, and all these things, you have to be able to adapt very quickly and change. Otherwise, you are left behind in many areas, especially when it comes to transformation of technology. So if you are used to doing certain things in a certain way and do not want to change, then time will just leave you behind, and then you'll find yourself
that's
stranded.
But you also find that there's a certain mindset that is more amenable to responding to circumstances, to change, that are more adaptable to others. So that is really the key, isn't it? How do you cultivate the kind of mindset, as it were, that will adapt to circumstances? This is almost like Darwinian evolution.
That's what I was going to. Just took that off my mind.
Yeah, to, adaptability. That's really the key to survival, to long-time survival. It's adaptability.
As a species, that's how we survive from the Neanderthals to man.
And it applies in our everyday life. Workplaces, things change. And I'm glad you talked about technology. With technology now, even the way journalism was done previously, and now the coming of new media, mobile reporting, all of those things. So,
introduction to AI.
Yeah, introduction to AI.
AI is infiltrating all areas of work, medicine, journalism, law, anything. So you have to understand that new tools are being developed. How do you adapt yourself to applying these new tools? How do you adjust yourself? That's just a normal progression of the human, modern humans.
Yeah, it's very key.
And at the individual level, and also at a collective level.
Yes.
In fact, there's a theory that suggests, that posits that, in fact, it is technology that drives culture. Human behavior will change to adapt to technology. Just look at us today. Anytime you see all of us, you see how we're just focusing on our phones. There was a time we were not like that. Without the phone, we were not like that. We used to talk a bit more, the discussion fine. But now we're moving on.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
Yeah, even with paper now, a lot of conferences now are not going to be printing batches. There's this particular conference I was reading about, and they mentioned that make sure to have your phone with you because your conference badge is going to be on your phone. We are not going to be printing tags for nobody because it's a waste of resources when you have a phone that you can just scan.
It is true.
Which we just go to airports now. Yes. Now it's just, you just have to visualize,
and that's it.
Facial ID, and then you go. You don't need your passport. Literally, you don't need your passport. You just have to come. And then facial ID, then you just stand there, and then the gates open and you go. No immigration checks, nobody. I'm sure there is somebody at the background
checking,
looking things, but you don't have any human contact. And if you go to the shops and stores as well, technology have changed over this decade, and it's going to change even more coming into the future. So adaptability is important in terms of human existence, survival, animal, plants, and everybody. When the environment changes, it becomes hotter, you have to adapt. It becomes colder, you adapt. So adaptation is part of human existence.
It is. So let's go for a short break, and when we come back, we will take a look at the newspaper review. One of the most prominent, President Barrow, will be attending the 65th independence anniversary of Senegal. When we come back, we'll head right on to that.
Kiumoni arti webi na fitora gol no yawi te non kadi no moƴƴi kiumoni a wawa wadde piiji ɗin fow kala ko wonɗa wattu kala a wawa hendade mbuudi maɗin e o kiumoni app kesong a wawa nattinde mbuudi ma ɗum yaltina soda credit soda kiw paba soda ko falaɗa te non kadi wawa hen yoɓude himɓe e ko heewi ida wawi kadi nuldude kiumoni yoɓa bilji maɗin te non kadi hendoɗa mbuudi ko yaasi nulda himɓe kadi mbuudi fi nafitoragol ɗum no weeɓi yahu ka play store ma ɗum ka app store fi wawa fuɗɗade fi heɓugol hen ko laaɓi noddu kiwmoni customer care e 133 kiwmoni suñu kalpe minen udditi laawol ngol si woɓɓe jokki kiwmoni e muruntananne koteke anilañi mobile app sone yariŋo a lannayata ndun e se kuwol be keno ibe dawoda wati o wati e se muna fanno ila kodo la anin kiwmoni la ñim mobile app kuto e se kodo dundino ye kodo fintinde e se credit ko sanno ye kiw power sang ye feŋol sang ndun fanan e se mol jono anin ku jamalu e se kiwmoni kino ye la bilol jo ndun fanan bantala banko se kodo kiyeno e se kodo fanan kino do kotenye pour que muna fanyina a download sign play store anin app store ni la taka kusenango soto je kiwmoni customer care commandi 133 kiwmoni suñu kalpe ntolle nga silo walang dole molno.
Welcome back from that short break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV this morning, and now we head right on to the newspaper review. Mr. Mboch, like I mentioned, the President Barrow will be attending the 65th independence anniversary of Senegal, and this is the first since the Jomai and Sonko took over. This is the first independence celebration, PASTEF leadership, April 4th. What's your take on that? PASTEF,
come on.
new face,
But
brand new thing.
Granted, but same old Senegal.
Yeah.
One good turn deserves another.
Yeah.
Our Diamond Jubilee, Jomai came.
Yeah.
So when they have their
we have the
60th,
relationship.
we have that relationship.
Yeah.
So yes, you'll have new people. People will come and go. We've been dealing with them since it was Jawara Senghor, Jawara Abdou Diouf. You know what I mean? Players have been changing all the time. History moves on.
Yeah.
But the relationship fundamentally,
Yeah.
I think it's been solid. It's been a good relationship.
We don't have any choice. We are
Yeah.
embedded
Yeah,
right into
we
the
must
center.
So you make
Get
it
along.
right. So
Yeah.
you must try to make it right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there are a lot of also issues that they must have to address. I know they have the Senegalo-Gambian secretariat that is supposed to link, all these, two countries, so the trade and other issues. We also have the GCCI in partnership with the Senegal Chamber of Commerce to look at all these tariff system, how to unify all these things so that the movement of people, goods and services, these are fundamental things that have to be converged so that it would be easy, because Senegal and Gambia are, by definition in geography and any other context, the same, except perhaps with the colonial distinction, and that we did try to surmount it. We tried and forged the confederation, but the circumstances under which the confederation was forged, and then the protocols were some things that broke down the confederation, because Gambia couldn't have inherited the presidency of the confederation. It just had to be Senegal alone, and that was one of the main issues that fractured the confederation, apart from other issues as well. So it's important. We celebrate. Today is a day of celebration, or rather tomorrow. So we celebrate together with them as our cousins. If you trace any of our ancestries, it's either Senegalese, Gambian. So that's how interrelated we are. So we are one and the same people in terms of culture, geography, and in many other aspects.
Yeah. I did not read anywhere where it highlights that the celebration is going to be low-key. I didn't.
It's their first, as PASTEF government, and these are young, very progressive, dynamic, people that came to power. So we want to see how they will impact after, their term, and see what changes, because the language that they came into power with was very revolutionary, very transformative. So there is hope, that they will cope issues like corruption. They are lucky that now they are exploring oil, so there would be more revenue generating sources. So transform the lives of the ordinary people of Senegal. This is what is supposed to happen. This is their agenda. Their ideology is founded on that, and everybody is hopeful, and we pray for them, that we hope that they succeed, because their success would be a success to Africa and also to ourselves.
Yeah, and we've seen that already. French troops are leaving Senegal. The force, about 2 to 3 weeks ago, the first batch of French troops to leave their bases in certain areas in Senegal, they've already started leaving. So now they're going to have sort of a joint declaration that is going to highlight that these forces are as equal as any other forces that exist in the region or have bilateral relations with, to ensure that, they are as sovereign as they put it.
Well, I think with that sort of thing, we've seen this wave. The wind of change now is a new kind of change. Really, absolutely, Francophonie and all of that. Absolutely fine, do that. Now, afterwards, what do you do? I think that's really where the challenge is, really, because we've seen with places like Burkina Faso and Mali, Niger, one of the reasons why they really wanted the government out and the French out, so that they could take care of their own security. But we realize the challenge is still there with the insurgencies. So how do you handle that? So with even these three countries, the alliance, they're coming up with all sorts of policies, immigration, with money, with economics. Even recently, they set up a tariff. They're doing a Trump as well. They've got this tariff against all goods, imported goods. So we will see how they handle themselves. That would be the ultimate challenge. You want them to go. You think that you can do it yourselves. Fine. It is very honorable. It's laudable. Now prove it. I think that's really what the next challenge is.
It's just a matter of, a lot of factors coming into play, because you have to understand the geopolitics of the world as well. And the world now is very, very turbulent in many areas in terms of trade and other aspects. That's why these sub-regional blocks are very important, and they have to make them work. We have to have intra-country trading and all these things. Those protocols that are being signed within ECOWAS, AU, and they're just gathering dust, not having the courage to implement them, are the things that we want to see implemented, so that Africa can start moving and start looking inward to see that we can produce what we need. We can self-sustain ourselves and have policies that are directed towards addressing the poverty of the people. Looking at rural Africa, they are similar. If you go to Nairobi, it's a very beautiful city. You go to Johannesburg, beautiful city. You go to Dakar, the cities, the satellite cities are beautiful. But if you go to the rural communities, you see extreme poverty, and that can be replicated all over Africa. And this is where we have to really start addressing in order to change the trend and impact the lives of the people. And this is the agenda that these people, the PASTEF, have been selling to the Senegalese people. We hope that they could be able to implement their programs and then create a developmental project or program that will impact the lives of the ordinary Senegalese people.
We hope so. And also, we understand that we see VP emphasizing that the Makati Square in Banjul belongs to government. We saw about 2 weeks ago that a particular press release highlighting that the government of the Gambia will take over officially the Makati Square in Banjul, citing that the maintenance of the Makati Square is not good enough, and it is supposed to be that recreational center that Banjulians and individuals who live out of Banjul should use for different purposes, but it's not meeting its purpose. And council is also...
There's been a talk of war.
It has been,
It's very politicized, I think. Everybody's muscling out, The mayoress is not giving up. I think it has been always under the control of the city council. And now, I think, for me, government would have been more justified had they cited security reasons, because it's very close to the state house, and they want to take. But all these issues, that are, intended on it, I don't think they really that very solid in terms of argument. But I don't know what the
because they're just talking about how it looks. It not being when I read online, there were actually mixed feelings about it from citizens. Some people were okay with it because they felt like the Makati Square can be used for a lot of other events. It can look better. Some people went to the extent of even showing how bad the toilets look, for example. So it's not, with honesty, the conclusion is that it's not looking good. But what collaboration to some could have been done between the council and government to fix it.
Well, like I think you said, in that case, the council have to answer to that, because those facilities and amenities are not very difficult to manage. So I don't see any reason why they should be dilapidated to that extent. But they should be engaging, have a dialogue, and see where they converge, rather than having that acrimonious kind of, contention that is in between them.
Makati Square, Banjul, must be under BCC. It's just very strange. So now invoking this idea that it's not being run well, they think that they can run it well, they can run it better than the council. Does it mean that from now on, whatever doesn't run well, are we going to take it? Where do we stop, as it were? Makati Square, and this is such a small issue given the issues that we face right now. It seems so peripheral. It doesn't seem, very central to really what we should be thinking about these days. So I just do not know what to make of it, but it seems so
Non-issue.
You know, it's a non-issue really. We just some people do not understand why government wants to get involved in these things.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, it's just like the Senegalese troops leaving Senegal. You mentioned what happens next. So a lot of people still on, public reaction are saying, if government takes it, let's see what they're going to turn it into at the end of the day. They will take it, but what are they going to do to actually make it better for it to be worth taking it over from the, BCC? So that's actually
time.
We'll just
time
leave
will
that
tell.
hanging in the
Yeah,
air.
that's where we are. And
drops.
also we saw the Sandika fires, and also at the Naval Command also there was a fire incident. But particularly with the Sandika one, we saw a press release from NAWEC, because the Kanifing Municipal Council first came out to say there was an electric spark. That's what caused it. And then NAWEC actually came with, another press release to clarify that it had nothing to do with NAWEC's presence. Actually, NAWEC is not even offering services in that particular vicinity, which was good that a clarification was made, because sometimes, most of the time, when these fire incidences happen, we'd always attribute it to fires. But that should not be the concentration. But that happened anyway.
Yeah, but I think both parties have jumped too quickly.
Quick to conclude.
I think for these kind of situations, normally it would be the fire service that is responsible into investigating the source and cause of the fire and then come up with a report.
Yeah.
So either of the parties should not come at this early stage
to make
when it just happened to make a declaration as to A, B, or C, because we don't know yet. Let there have to be a comprehensive investigation, the facts established, so that they can avert it happening in other places if they come to know the source and the causes. If they are man-made or they are accidents because of wiring, or, then they will get to the bottom of it, rather than playing a ping-pong game.
It is a ping-pong game.
That doesn't help.
Let
the people that are responsible for investigating, I presume it would normally be the fire brigade to do that, establish the source, because they would normally study the source and causes of fire, and they can establish it because it's normally done. You have forensic scientists who do study and know the source and the cause.
But I think NAWEC had to come in and say something, because obviously at the early stages as well, KMC said it's an electricity. So you would also expect they had to send a team on ground to actually do their own investigation quickly, to also clear their own skin, which is normal.
Yeah, it's normal, but both parties just should wait.
Calm down.
Let the people that are responsible, under whose purview this falls, do the investigation, come up with the facts and share it with the public. The reason is not to blame, but to establish the facts so that we can avert it happening in other places, because we tend to have fire incidents a lot, especially this time of the year with markets and other places. And still, we don't know. We have to know so that we can avoid them happening. But
when we take the past few years, we've been reporting a good number of fires around. Market fires all over the place. And every time, what do you hear? Electrical spark,
That's what I was saying.
Electrical spark.
Yeah.
It's almost like a reflex, as it were.
Whatever happens, you just put it on
whatever, whether it is or not.
Yeah.
So we've here discussed in numerous programs the sort of investigations done. Do we get the reports so that we can know causes of, these fires? And then what is it that we can do about it? But you've realized that these fires keep occurring. And the report is as if there's really no movement. That is really what's going on here. It's as if there's no movement. And even with the NAWEC clarification, first they had that statement that said that their initial investigations showed that none of their systems were at fault. It was the second
that said they weren't even present.
They were not offering any services. Then I thought, so what systems were you talking about that the fault didn't come from your systems? If your systems are not offering any services, what are they there for? So to me, there was no clarification. I have to say, we would have liked to really talk about that, the two different statements, and how they don't seem to be sitting easily with each other, in my analysis anyway. So that is it. So it's high time when these things happen. Bring the report out when we have the report. Then we act on it.
Yeah.
The fact is, we just have a problem acting on things.
Yeah.
We
And
just
being
mention
defensive
them.
Yeah.
So
Kind
they
of
become
fighting.
repetitive.
Yeah.
As one philosopher put it, repetitiveness, that's madness. You know, break it. Otherwise you will get giddy. It's like going round in circles. Let's do something about it. Otherwise, every so often, we are going to have these things as we've been having.
Because these fires could have been even much more serious considering the location.
Yeah.
It's very densely populated.
It's very dense.
And it could have, you remember, I mean, in history, the fire that, burned down London, it started in a bakery.
Yeah.
And the entire London, the great fires of London, the entire place burned down. And the same situation could happen, considering, the compounds, how tight that area is, I think the important thing is to establish the fact based on evidence so that we can look forward to ensuring that such measures are taken in order to prevent it. And Gambia, we should develop the culture of health and safety, looking at things, having
Fire extinguishers,
inspectors visiting premises, looking at this, looking at all these things, which should be inbuilt into our institutions now and culture.
Yeah, that's true. So before we leave, also, we've seen the Gambia Police Force and their advocacy programs on zebra crossings. And you know what? Few times during the Ramadan for the past 3 weeks, I've observed myself that drivers are beginning to respect zebra crossings because I've used it myself along Senegambia multiple times. So for me, it was more of an experiment. I'm like, let me also experiment this. The moment now you're approaching it or you're on it, you can see them slowing down and standing, actually stopping completely to allow pedestrians to move. So I think there's that sense of understanding now. It's improving. It's improving.
Yeah, but the fact that you have to have police officers standing there to instruct people shows that it's not still embedded in our psyche. The culture is not inbuilt.
Well, yes.
They must have to rehearse it. I know some of
they're
these
trying
things are
now.
new.
Yeah.
They're new to some of the drivers and most of them. But these health and road safety issues should be a thing in the media that they should propagate continuously, have programs to educate. It's not just zebra crossing, Jay. The attitude of drivers, the way we drive on that highway, sometimes every day you drive along there, you will see 1 or 2 or 3 accidents needlessly. Because I keep telling Mr. Mboy, because we come in the morning to work, tell him people going in the same direction should not have any reason to collide.
Yeah.
But because you tailgate, you come so close to the other vehicle in front, when there is a sudden break, it creates a lot of... So the type of accidents that are happening can really be avoided because of lack of awareness, lack of training, attitude. All these things compounded create the mess that we have on our roads. And it's being fatal. It's costing a lot of lives, damage of property, and a lot of things. So re-education is important in terms of roads, attitude, habits, and all these signs and symbols.
And I'm glad you talked about the fact it's beyond zebra crossings. Even when accidents happen on the highway, for example, if a truck is stuck, they wouldn't even put a reflector in front of it to tell the person coming that there's something in front of you. We've lost a lot of people. Just recently, we lost a journalist like that because there was no reflector in front of the stock vehicle to show the person that there's something in front of you. That is even way more dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. And it's something that really needs to be looked into.
Lots of issues to talk about on our roads. We can sit here the whole day
talking about it.
Definitely.
Yeah. But thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Ka. Are you going to go get a cup of coffee, or are you still on your greens? You used to be a really hard guy.
No, I haven't taken any of my greens for ages.
Why?
I'm back to my normal tea.
Why?
I miss tea.
You miss tea?
I'm very anglicized.
But you're not a coffee person.
No.
Yeah, you don't need the caffeine.
No.
The caffeine Mr. Mboch takes in?
Yes.
That's a lot of caffeine, Mr. Mboch. When are you planning on stopping coffee or reducing coffee?
No, I wouldn't. Why?
Because it's a lot of...
Jay. You advocating against coffee? The whole world part of the world.
No, maybe limit it. Because it's a lot.
I don't know, maybe have 5-6 cups a day.
Every day?
Yeah.
That's
And you feel good about it?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely.
Okay, but with sugar or without?
I don't do sugar.
Okay, I'm
With
glad
coffee,
you don't do sugar.
There should be no milk, no
Sugar?
sugar in coffee. So you really get the
aroma,
flavor, the
This
aroma.
one is a hardcore coffee drink.
Wow. All right.
Cannot imagine drinking
And
coffee
it's a
with
stimulant, isn't it? That it keeps you sort of on the edge. And I like being on the edge when I'm working.
I used to take coffee in grade 9, grade 12, because then you have exams. That's the only I used to do that.
I love the smell though.
Yeah, it has a very nice,
strong
because
aroma,
it helps with studying. So even though we were young, we used to take the coffee, you know, the whole last minute thing. We used to we used to do that. But thank you so much, Mr. Ka, for joining us on the program. So, Mr. Mboch, we'll just go for a short break. And when we come back, we'll be taking a look at the land policy. The Gambia, for the first time, has a land policy that will ensure that there is a fair land tenure system. There's also gender responsiveness when it comes to land allocation and ensuring that, land allocation generally is fairly done in the Gambia. So we'll be right back to take a look at this policy.
Q Money imurundana ne koteke anila ni mobile app sone yaringo alanna yata ndung ise kuol bekeno ibeda woda wati ise munafano ila kodola anin Q Money la ni mobile app kuto ise kodo dundino ye kodo fintinde ise credit ko sanno ye Q Power sang ye fengol sang ndum fanang ise mol jono anin ku jamalu ise Q Money kino yela bilol jo ndum fanang bantala banko se kodo kiyeno ise kodo fanang kino do kotenge pourke munafanyina a download sign Play Store anin App Store ni laftaka Serengo sotoje Q Money customer care commandi 133 Q Money suñu kalpe ntolle nga silo walang dole mol noma Q Money delsina ak sen mobile app bu bes bi orna gawna te yit mun nga ko jëfande ko pour def ci lo bëgga fo mun di ne watu bu ne mun nga jot sa xaliss ak Q Money mobile app bu bes bi mun nga dugal xaliss génné xaliss jënd ci crédit jënd ci Q Power jënd lo bëgga ak yu bari mun nga ci yone Q Money fay sa bill si jot xaalis bitim réew yónnee xaalis ci noo ko bëggee looy def yombana downloadal app bi léegi ca Play Store bu dul loolu App Store pour nga door pour am si lu leer koolal Q Money customer care si 133 Q Money suñu kalpe ñoo xaali yoon wi ñeneen toppa.
Q Money is back again with its easy-to-use, secure and convenient mobile app that allows you to carry out all your transactions. No matter where you are or what time it is, you can always access your funds. With the new Q Money app, you can cash in and out, buy credit, buy Q Power, shop, make payments, and so much more. You can also send Q Money, pay bills, receive international remittances, and transfer cash to others. Just download the app from your Play Store or App Store and get started. For more information, call customer care on 133. Q Money, Sinu Kalpe. We innovate, others follow.
QCell mooy suñu boss. QCell mooy suñu boss. QCell mooy suñu boss. Soro. Go. Ebe dawa full network suda tili. QCell. Ni lafta diamla wati jamala mune diata. QCell. Most reliable network jumala keta wati. QCell. Wo quality man nyon soda jam ona manke QCell. Hanibe wulo ni farole kono walante be bako na jala fayola network ko se taria. QCell suñu boss. Nyo finjeka indi 3G ñu delu taxi 4G plus and now we bring you 5G. 5G. First and only 5G provider. Suñu boss. Itela follow adi doron nesa keno. Suñu boss. Gambia bela nyon tawo fele QCell. Suñu boss. Ko fasunta buka busi QCell. Suñu boss. Itela multi milka kukutol nati Gambia QCell meta lori la kiliano yele imanyina amanda wala itela ka quality dila dadi ma itele silo wala wodol mume be kenoma. QCell suñu boss. QCell suñu boss. QCell suñu boss. QCell suñu boss. Connection be bambandi QCell suñu boss. QCell most innovative QCell suñu boss.
Welcome back from that short break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV's This Morning. And I'm here with my co-host, Mr. Momodou Mboj. So, Mr. Mboj, like I mentioned, we will now be taking a look at the Gambia's land policy, first land policy in the Gambia, and we are joined by Mr. Mahmoudou Manjang, who is the DPS of the Ministry of Lands. So this particular land policy is supported by World Bank's WACA project to develop, and an evaluation was also done. So, Mr. Manjang, welcome to the program. Thank you so much for joining us. So, can you just take us through, give us an overview generally of what this land policy seeks to achieve in the Gambia?
Thank you very much for being with you today.
Yes.
Actually, yes, the overview of the land policy, I think the government has realized that there are a lot of issues in the absence of the national land policy that are related to land conflicts, unplanned settlements, unregistered land, and all those sort of including that is among the list. So they felt there is a need to formulate a land policy that would address those challenges that we are facing. Among them, I think, and based on this, because the government has been trying to get this for so long, but funding was our issue. And then when we come up with the concept and then the justifications why we need the land policy, then World Bank came toward it to ensure we have this land policy.
Yes, so Mr. Mboj, part of the issues that this land policy will be solving is particularly gender responsiveness of land allocation. So how will you ensure this? You know, women generally, part of the challenges that they face is accessing land.
To start with, I think, well, government, what they did was they decided to come up with a roadmap, because in formulation of this thing, the first thing that they came up with is to design a roadmap. With the roadmap, it's helped them to, can I proceed?
Yeah. Yes, so the roadmap.
Yeah, they came up with a roadmap, and then the roadmap came up with a lot of activities that includes having a steering committee, and then after the steering committee, they also have the coordinating units that would be within this, and they also established the thematic working groups, because they look at all the issues that are affecting the land administration, and this is just like land tenure and land administration, land use planning and management, legal framework, which is very key, because if you realize that in most of these court cases, if court-related, land-related conflict, and they also look at the public administration. These are the 4 thematic groups that they were looking at, and then I think about 76 institutions were represented to be part of these 4 thematic working groups. So these thematic working groups are looking at those areas, and those include vulnerable youth and women who couldn't have access to land, and all other issues are also being considered in this.
Yes, Mr. Manjang, highly contentious issue. You go to the courts, there are so many cases there, and then you wonder, what's the biggest problem with land? You do hear people, they'll tell you that some of these alcalos or real estate agents, whoever, they will sell the same land 2 or 3 times, and they're like, fundamentally, how would this policy really change that? Because you hear lots of complaints, highly volatile area. How would this land policy change that to make sort of like authentication, ownership clear and straightforward?
Yeah, there are a lot of factors contributed to this, and as I said, unplanned settlement is one of the things that are. In fact, if you look at, we have 3 types of land tenure system. That is the freehold. In fact, that is only considered around Banjul, Janjambre, and then probably part of Bakau. Those started from the colonial eras. And we also have the lease tenure system. That's within the, how do you call it, the State Land Act. Because if you look at how the area has been designed, Banjul, Combo, KMC, up to Brikama, West Coast, how do you call it, Combo Central, Combo South, are all part of the state land area. So these areas are governed by the State Land Act, and this is where you can have the lease 99 years. So anybody within these areas is deemed leasee, and you are entitled to lease within a period. But unfortunately, what is happening now is with the way the lands have been allocated by the customary owners, it was not well controlled, well registered, and also this has created a lot of problems that we are seeing now. So to address this, the policy is now coming with a guideline that is going to help us to look at the existing laws. That is why we have the legal framework as one of the thematic working groups. We are going to review those legal framework to see where do we adjust them and then come up with a better policy that would help us to arrest such things. And then the way the land administration is also being managed, if you look at the land tenure, also land rights are not properly addressed. The way they are registered are also part of the issue. So these are some of the things that we are going to look at and then ensure that we have a proper land registration. And then we're going to also have to digitalize our system, because all what we're doing are paper-based, and that also contributed how the documentation process is being handled. So all these things are going to be part of the factor. We're also going to look at capacity building is going to be part of it, from the Alcalos level up to Kiev, and then to the how do you call it, to the land administration. Currently, we've already identified a consultant who has looked at the capacity gap from the local level to the ministry. And then those capacity gaps, he has come up with the capacity plan where we feel that we can address those things. Probably we'll even started training the alcalos and then make sure that they have a proper recording system that would eliminate most of these land double allocations and land conflicts.
Yes, so the Waka project, thank you so much for joining us, Alaji, who's the social development specialist at the Waka. So what does this mean to the Waka project to support the government, specifically the Ministry of Lands, to develop the first land policy in the Gambia?
All right, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. It's good having you, having us here again. We were here at the tail end of 2023 to discuss about the Waka project. So just to give you a small hindsight about what the Waka project is again, before coming to what you've asked. The Waka project is called the West Africa Coastal Areas Management Program. It's funded by the World Bank. As we speak currently, we have 9 countries that are participating in this program, which the Gambia is part of. But the Gambia is within the second phase of the program. And with us, we are working, our intervention area is the Kotu Stream. When we talk about the Kotu Stream, it's from Nemakunku, where you have the Jufuro Faros, and then it cuts across 11 communities, and it empties at the Atlantic coast to Sunset Beach Hotel. So the stretch is like 11.2 kilometers. I'm coming back to the question that you've asked, the importance or the relevance of the Waka project helping or supporting the Ministry of Lands or government to develop the first-ever land policy. I think it's a very critical movement for us. It's a very critical issue because, like, if you look at land issues, it's one of the most contending issues that we have, even when it goes to the level of the courts. You have more cases around land problems than any other issue around human development. So being the funder of the land policy, it's important for us, and because of that, we kind of try to look at it in a way like DPS have already said. The relevance of the land policy, first of all, will help government to manage issues of land-related resources. Because like in the Gambia, we have limited land resources, and then we have to manage them. And then because of there has not been any adequate management program or system within the Ministry of Lands, even the way they manage documents, you still use paper-based. So that's one of the reasons why having the land policy, it's a great direction that helps us kind of tailor-made a more pragmatic way of handling our land resources than just leaving them anyhow. So within the land policy, like he said, the development kind of had an inclusive approach. We have an international...
I was going to come to the inclusiveness because as social development specialist, you are looking at vulnerable groups in a way with your work. And these vulnerable groups includes women. Well, I went through the policy and I saw how you're ensuring a gender responsive policy, because women generally access to land or using land as collateral is a challenge due to inheritance and other things. And also we've seen how the policy also seeks to address poor, when I say poor, individuals who cannot access land, maybe land is beyond their reach. How do you intend to do this? Is there going to be a scheme somewhere, or how is this going to happen?
Okay, so for us as a project, maybe that's a little bit technical.
Well, it is, but I know it's highlighted.
Yes,
maybe on just the surface, you can tell us how.
So in terms of what we're going to do, even within the project intervention area for our project, what we are trying to see, we are looking at how do we help vulnerable people, especially young people and women, because usually they are one of the most vulnerable people when it comes to land resources. So one way that we are going to do within our initiatives, we make sure that we give them quotas, and we also make sure that we kind of get them land area that could be kind of secured, and it could be transferred to them. And this has been some of the approaches that even government is using when it comes to agricultural development. So that's one of the ways that we are also going to do, kind of provide them the scheme and also get them the access to land, not just access, but also how do they control. And the control will now come, how do they kind of formalize it so they can transfer ownership of the land that they are going to use, not just saying, okay, we are using it for a number of years, and after which the owner is going to come and confiscate it from us. But we want to see that land use for women and access for women and youth will be transferred in the long-term process through the intervention of the policy. But also important for us, like within our project intervention area, we are more focused on how do we help vulnerable people. So if you talk about the Kotu stream, most of the people living across the Kotu stream are poor people, and they are very vulnerable. When we say they are vulnerable, especially to shocks like flooding, flash floods is one of the main challenges, and the project seeks to kind of mitigate that. And then because of that, we are also having another program that we call the market assessment, which is also a social intervention area that would help over 4,000 households in terms of strengthening their livelihood activities. Because like when we talk about the Kotu stream, again, land issue, there has been a lot of encouragement. And then women and youth are also left behind. But as we are doing as a project, currently what we are doing, maybe one of the things that we will be doing is like encouraging community-led gardens. And then when we encourage community-led gardens, we've been doing a lot of consultations. And the reception from the community leaders especially has been very good. And we've seen a huge signal that they are prepared to support, that they're prepared to kind of transfer land ownership to women across this community, so they can also be able to kind of enhance their livelihood. And through that, the project would also invest to support them in terms of managing the land and in terms of also doing some of the agricultural, urban agricultural activities that they want to do.
Yeah. So, Mr. Mbuj, before you comment, you know, you asked this very important question to Mr. Manjang, and then we all see, I just want to buttress on that, which is that, you know, there exists a lot of bureaucracy when it comes to acquiring land in the Gambia. So in what aspect around that is the land policy also going to take a look at? For example, if you want to buy a land, you go to the real estate, there's alcalo, you have to pay the alcalo's fee, which government came up with a press release to say you're not supposed to pay, but still it is happening, because if you don't pay them, we know how they're going to make you come and go. They will do it deliberately. It's there. And then also from there, you also, for example, if you're buying a land in Yuna, you have to go to the Birkama Area Council to pay. They give you 3 papers. You go back to the SAFO, to the alcalo again, to the real estate to sign. And then from there, you go back to physical planning. They come and check it. From there, you go. So how are we going to, streamline this, the bureaucracy, in a way that you do not have to go to 10 places to secure one land due to anxiety, because you're anxious because you don't want to lose your land, for example. So GPS.
Yes, I think to start with inclusiveness, you asked, so if you look at the policy itself, the way it's being designed, You know, we talk about these thematic working groups. Currently, they came up with a, how do you call it, issue paper, and that was validated. And then now they went around to all the regions from the grassroots to do the consultative process. And in that way, because we want everybody to get the ownership of the policy. So from vulnerable, youth, women, and disabled are all part of the process.
Right.
So they were able to go through, because at every region, everybody is invited to be part of the process, and then their input, their insights has been captured, and their comments are well valued. If you look at I wish you've seen the copy of the draft
yeah, I
land
actually
policy.
have the draft.
Yeah, so all those things have been considered, and definitely we're now looking at, because this is a policy that's going to guide how the vulnerables are part of this, how women are able to have access to land.
Yeah.
So all those things are captured, and currently even the zero draft that is being done is being circulated for everybody to look at it, and then the comments, especially we are now receiving positive comments from
So
the
how
public.
about the streamline?
So, and coming back to the other part of the questions you were saying, yes, we've realized that, well, the process is cumbersome, and then we are doing everything possible to streamline the process. Currently, what we're now doing is we want to digitalize the process, and with the help of the World Bank, we are also looking at even the leasing process. Instead of having all those steps to do the leasing, now we are now looking at how do we streamline this using the digitalized format. And this way, you cannot use this paper-based process. All what you need to do is, you have to probably, if you want to stand at Land and Service, they're going to scan all your documents, and then it will be in the system. Now, if the minister has to, because probably it has to go to fiscal planning, probably land ministry, and then to the minister. So all what they need to do is the system would dictate them to look at if everything is okay. It will just tick, and then it goes to the director of fiscal planning, who also would go through and then find out, well, if at all he has no issue, then it goes to the minister and the minister. So it's not a matter of having this. Probably in 1 week or so, you can have your list. And when it comes to the other way, you know, I told you that in initial that even the alcalos are going to be trained how to understand the process. So probably when these things are done, we will have at least a streamlined system. Of
because the alcalos over the phone themselves will tell you, "Dang ma am pur jox dara de." Ñom nak ragalé wuñ ko de. They're gonna be like, "You have to give me something." So when I saw
that will reduce all this and the bureaucracy, and then probably it will solve most of our problems.
Yeah. So are alcalos underpaid? How much? How is the payment scheme for them?
Yeah,
I wonder, because the reason why maybe they are so, strong on you have to give me something, I know it's just a compensation or token that you normally give them. So are you looking at maybe adjusting that so that they have a proper livelihood themselves, whereby they do not have to depend in any way from what people have to give them to sign that alcalos transfer paper?
I think at the end of the day, when the policy is done, is going to address all those issues.
Okay.
And currently, that's the reason why the minister came up with the pronouncement that the alcalos should not accept anything from
people.
But the policy would address all those things.
All right. Okay.
Real estate, there's a general perception, everybody's complaining that they are unregulated. Will this policy encompass this regulation?
It will really, because that is a major concern of the ministry. And currently what we're doing, and in the absence of the policy, we're trying to come up with a regulation that would look at the activities of the real estate. And then if you look at the other thematic area of this, which is the land use, land management, is also trying to look at how do we manage these real estate agents. Because if you have a proper land use plan, that will dictate where you have residential, agricultural, and other uses. So the officer, whoever wants to deal with the land, has to know where your limitations are. You cannot go beyond the residential limit until otherwise, because this the land use plan would have a grace period of 15 to 20 years. So within that, any area that is designated as agricultural, you cannot allow any residential.
Yeah.
Forest and other land uses, you cannot entertain any other activities. So that would also help to regulate the way they are dealing with the land use.
But this is when we say that this sector is unregulated, does it mean that really they can do whatever they want, or you have some legislation in place that could be a restraining factor in the way they behave?
Currently we using another strategy to regulate them, because any real estate agents who wants to sell and you have to go to physical planning. One, they ensure that you come up with a layout plan of whatever area you wanted to sell, because this layout plan has been numbered, and they make sure that you have social amenities within it, because the neighborhood should enjoy those social amenities. Yeah. So if you have those within that neighborhood, definitely anytime you want to sell or you want to any of your land, the number would dictate who is being given to, and then it will be helpful.
Actually, there's a lot to discuss, but due to time, even who determines the prices of land, I do not know. Could you define a land be manko jaya 1 million, kina 500,000? You don't even know who determines what. So, which I'm sure is also...
No, they will tell you the market.
The market. But this land policy is very, very key.
It's very, very
key. It's very important, and
key.
we are
because
glad
I remember one, that was one of the comments from public, and what we're trying to do now is we are going to look at the family level. Family head of the family has to decide who owns it, who should sell land, and then probably that will also control.
So due to time.
So just a little bit on time, a follow-up to the land policy, because I know made mention of capacity development. So within the WACA program, we are also going to provide capacity development support for the ministry.
Thank you.
But equally also a follow-up to other subsets of the land policy. We are going to support them. Currently, the assessment is completed on land management information system, which is also very essential. But we are also going to pilot what we call the cadastral mapping within the Kotu stream. Once that is piloted through the support of the project to the ministry, then it will be sent. It will be kind of rolled out to other regions within the country.
All right. So thank you to the WACA project as well for funding this, supporting government to do this. I'm looking forward to it. We just hope that it's not going to be one of those policies that will gather dust, like you always say. We do not want it to gather dust, but yeah.
Please,
so let's see when it's done.
Time.
I mean when it's done. But we have time is up.
About the implementation, because if you look at the policy also, along the line we are also developing the implementation strategy. So that will have to.
We will. But thank you so much for joining us. So Mr. Mbodj, we'll just go for a short break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by Maimouna Jabi. The Alliance Francaise Banjul office has a women's empowerment project where they are recognizing women in different spheres of life, empowering them, celebrating them, and, sending out there the amazing work that they're doing to inspire young women. So we will be right back and joined by Maimouna Jabi.
Kiumoni arti webi na fitora gol no yawi te non kadi no moƴƴi kiumoni a wawa wadde piiji ɗin fow kala ko wonɗa wattu kala a wawa hendade mbuudi maɗin e o kiumoni app kesong a wawa nattinde mbuudi ma ɗum yaltina soda credit soda kiw paba soda ko falaɗa te non kadi wawa hen yoɓude himɓe e ko heewi ina wawi kadi nuldude kiumoni yoɓa bilji maɗin te non kadi hendoɗa mbuudi ko yaasi nulda himɓe kadi mbuudi fi nafitoragol ɗum no weeɓi yahu ka play store ma ɗum ka app store fi wawa fi heɓugol hen ko laaɓi noddu Q-Money customer care e 133 Q-Money suñu kalpe minen udditi lawol ngol si woɓɓe jokki Q-Money e muruntananne koteke anilañi mobile app sone yaringo alanna yata ndum e se kuwol be keno ibe dawoda wati o wati e se muna fanno ila kodola anin Q-Money la ñim mobile app kuto e se kodo dundino ye kodo fintinde e se credit ko sanno ye Q-Power sang ye fengol sang ndum fanan e se mol jono anin ku jamalu e se Q-Money kino yela bilol jo ndum fanan bantala banko se kodo kiyeno e se kodo fanan kino do kotenge pour que muna fanyina a download sign Play Store anin App Store ni laftaka Serengo sotoje Q-Money customer care commandi 133 Q-Money suñu kalpe ntolle nga silo walang dole mol noma Q-Money delsina ak sen mobile app bu bes bi orna gawna te yit mun nga ko jëfande ko pour def ci lo bëgga fo mun di ne wattu bu ne mun nga jot sa xaalis ak Q-Money mobile app bu bes bi mun nga dugal xaalis génné xaalis jënd ci credit jënd ci Q-Power jënd lo bëgga ak yu bari mun nga ci yone Q-Money fay sa bill si jot xaalis bitim réew yónnee xaalis ci noo ko bëggee looy def yombana downloadal app bi léegi ca Play Store bu dul loolu App Store pour nga door pour am si lu leer koolal Q-Money customer care si 133 Q-Money suñu kalpe ñoo xaali yoon wi ñeneen toppa
QMoney is back again with its easy-to-use, secure and convenient mobile app that allows you to carry out all your transactions. No matter where you are or what time it is, you can always access your funds. With the new QMoney app, you can cash in and out, buy credit, buy Q Power, shop, make payments, and so much more. You can also send QMoney, pay bills, receive international remittances, and transfer cash to others. Just download the app from your Play Store or App Store and get started. For more information, call customer care on 133. QMoney, Sinu Kalpe. We innovate, others follow.
Welcome back from that short break. If you're just tuning in, you're watching QTV this morning. So, Mr. Mboch, now we're joined by Maimuna Jabi. So, Alliance Francaise, the Banjul office came up with a project called Women's Empowerment Project, where, you know, they're celebrating women from different sectors of the Gambia and just looking for a way to encourage young women to do more based on the inspiration that they will receive from the women who are being celebrated through this project. And in collaboration, the Jigen Show on QTV has had a collaboration with this particular project to showcase the amazing work that these young women are doing. And Maimuna Jabi happens to be one of them. Congratulations, Maimuna. So, Mr. Mboch, Maimuna is a climate activist. She's been doing this for the past 10 years, you know, leading young people in climate restoration efforts in the Gambia. Welcome and congratulations, Maimuna.
Thank you so much, Jainaba. It's good to be back.
Yeah, it is. So, you know, how do you feel about this recognition?
It's amazing and it's highly appreciative. And it's been done in a way whereby it's not a usual tick in the box, and it's so innovative. The most exciting one was seeing the billboards.
Yeah.
And I wasn't here when my billboard was up, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But it was, I would get
I
calls
saw it.
on a daily basis.
And
People
it's on traffic light.
Traffic
so
light.
It's so easy to spot.
People would send me photos, my families, my friend, everybody was so excited. And you know, I didn't know like culturally that billboards were a big thing in Gambia.
Yeah.
Because it's like you grow up and then you hardly see somebody you know, a familiar face on the billboard.
Yeah.
But now them seeing all of us and then getting to know our work and then you get to explain the project. That's been amazing. And also we did series of other activities like the interviews you're talking about, events with EU.
Yeah.
And we'll be having the closing ceremony on the 16th also. But it's actually been very fun to do it and being able to interact with a lot of girls, both virtually and physically.
Yeah, it's amazing. So your work, you are being recognized for your work in climate change related matters, ensuring that your interview with Linger, my key takeaway was the whole climate justice thing, climate justice issues, you know, with Gambia maybe contributing less to all of these problems, but, you know, getting to deal with a lot of it. So how far have we gone when it comes to this matter? You've been doing this for the past 10 years, leading young people in climate restoration efforts. You know, what's your assessment of the past 10 years doing this work, changes, challenges, everything?
It's crazy, and you could see how 10 years just flew by very fast. I was a teenager 10 years ago. I was in high school, and we were doing all of these things as voluntary aspect, contributing to national development. And now I've gone into, you know, and then the next 10 years have come, and now I see myself in the policy areas, you know, not just nationally, but internationally. So one thing have changed. The weather have changed. The climate have changed. The problems we're having, they're increasing tenfold. You know, there have been fire outbreaks in the US. There have been water coming from deserts in Morocco. You know, there have been floods. There have been a lot of climate issues that we have never seen, you know, across the world. But one thing that have still not changed and is the advocacy, is the politics around, you know, or I would say the geopolitics around the whole climate issue, similar to nearly all other problems. In fact, it has worsened. We've seen more wars happening, you know. We've seen at least half a dozen wars happening, especially in the Middle East and in the African region. And all of these things, yes, they have the human rights issues, they have the children and all of the lives that have been lost. But one particular thing they share is how they also destroying, you know, the environment. They're not just genocides, they're ecocides, because one bomb destroys not just the current ecosystem, but especially if it's nuclear weapons. They stay there for centuries, you know, before people are able to recover, the environment is able to recover and the health. But then again, also the COP, which is the biggest global environmental policy platform that we have, where we go as low development countries, as G7 nations will come, which are, you know, the high-powered industrial nations. You know, we have the G77, China, and some of the Asian countries, the small islands. Everybody comes, everybody is represented, but it's a platform where it's meant to bring people together, to show that we're equal, to show that our voices are the same. We're supposed to negotiate, we're supposed to talk, but it's the biggest platform that shows the inequality across the world, and similar to all other UN meetings and, you know, all other platforms that we have, you know, because you go to these places, you're negotiating on behalf of not just your country, because you have, you come in groups. So, you know, African countries and island countries, for instance, each would have their own group, or in certain instances, they'll come together. And then there's different topics, like there is climate finance, there's adaptation, you know, there is renewable energy, there's loss and damage, there's different topics, there's women, gender, you know. There's different topics that we're discussing on. And what happened in Azerbaijan, which was the last one, we saw actively how, because Azerbaijan won, and also there's this trend that has been happening whereby oil nations have been claiming the biggest meeting on climate change, you know, to not to hear or speak, but to lobby for themselves, because we're saying the fossil fuels have to go out. So these oil nations, they're hosting the conference now, and what is that bringing? Conflict of interest, and it's not been hidden anymore, just like how the genocide in Gaza is not been hidden anymore. They're there for their profits, they're there for their own political wills, and this is what we've been saying. So, you know, you go to these conferences now, yes, we still have to do them, we still have to put in the efforts, because imagine we're there and we've been blindsided, we've been discriminated. Imagine if we're not there, it means decisions will be made on our behalf, but at least when we go, we at least get one thing achieved. So you go there and then they're lobbying. At Azerbaijan, the climate finance where I was negotiating on, at least in the 2 weeks, half of the sessions were not held because they were boycotting it. It's just like a parliament. So if the people are absent, you cannot vote. And the same thing is what was happening at COP. And then $1.3 trillion is required to help, not to help actually, to return to us the losses that have been done in an environment, because African nations and developing nations contribute less than 10% to the whole climate emission, while industrial nations, China alone contributes 30%, the US alone contributes 30%, and then you have other countries. And then US and China, they're the biggest polluters, but they're the ones also, Trump have left, you know, the how to call it, the UN environment again. He always does it, the climate summit. So they're no more going to participate in the COP event. So they don't even want to be part of the solution. So they have to give us 1.3 million. Imagine how much they committed. 200 billion out of 1.3 million. So which was a big insult. You know, it's like they don't want to hear us. You know, they're saying, you're here for the money, or we're going to follow our profits. And then the interesting thing is that one oil company, not even the company makes, you know, makes trillions of dollars in profits every year. So what we are seeing is this mechanism of them delaying, them, you know, buying time. Every year you go to COP in November, you go to meet, it's hosted in an oil nation, then, you know, you don't agree on things, they boycott your sessions, and then you go, you know, they push all the agendas back to June in Bonn. You go back to Bonn, and then they say again, we're taking it to you know, the next COP. So it becomes this cycle, and you know, so before we know, 10 years pass, and Maimuna, who was young, you know, is getting older, because in the next 10 years, I will no longer even be a young person. So
you're
this is
right
what
about
keeps happening.
You're right.
Yeah, this is what
we're getting old. I'm getting old.
We're getting old.
Yes, Maimuna. I wonder if you were to assess sort of your climate advocacy in this country, what would you say has been your biggest achievement?
Interesting. Quite thought-provoking, huh? For me individually, or
as a group,
country,
climate advocacy, you've been working in it for 10 years. When you look at this area in this country, what would you say has been the biggest achievement when it comes to progressive climate change ideas, as it were, or actions we've taken? What would you see as the biggest achievement?
Yes.
Because here one is typically thinking about, given our peculiar circumstances, isn't it? The effect we've been experiencing, the floods, isn't it? In Banjul, we've seen that in people, and elsewhere, windstorms, and the coastal erosion, we know about that, the deforestation, isn't it? Definitely. For us, these are our particular concerns. So when you look at our vulnerabilities, what achievements, what movements have we made in addressing them?
Yes, the climate change ecosystem, or whatever we identify as, it relies heavily on people. It's people powered, and if people are not aware or people are not committed to it, it becomes a huge issue for us, because we need in people to move in millions for us to be able to achieve some of these things. Because what we have realized, we just talk about the political aspect at the global world, but we cannot even rely on local governments to some extent, and there's a lot of challenges. So one thing that have really changed in the Gambian context is the awareness, is the involvement, especially of young people. 10 years ago, when we were starting at the civil society level, people were not planting trees, hardly. Actually, people were, but it was not popularized. And also, you don't see young people as actively in this. And when we were in school, we didn't even know you could become a climate activist as a career, or become, a climate expert to some extent, unless if you are at MECNA. But at the private level, hardly, or even to initiate, create your own organization that will come and employ. And that's what we have done. And we have even gone to host, an African Union project from the local level before it got, moved on to the government, and now we're working with the government level. So, yeah, I would say it's the involvement of the young people and in the innovations they came with. Because the more action we have on climate change, or the more interest we have on climate change, it's what brings the change. The politicians are not doing it for us. So the cutting down of trees that we want our communities to stop, the sensitization, is the young people that do it. The planting, if you want people to stop, young people do the awareness and the education. But if you also want people to plant, this the young people and the communities, So if more people are aware, it means that more trees will be planted. The littering, if more people stop littering, we'll be cleaner.
So
but
you're
if less
saying
people is
young
aware,
people led the whole awareness. That's your biggest.
Definitely. And also the innovation part, because jobs are being created. Now there's a lot of recycling companies. People are getting jobs from mangrove planting. People are getting jobs, from waste management, charcoal production, biochar production. So young people are doing a lot, and they was leading this, not just in the Gambia, but across the world. It's young people that we see in protests, They was doing the protests. And even at the COP, we are not as represented there. This is a challenge, but the more you have, and this is the level, because this is where I started from. This is where millions of young people started from the universities, from the education, from the community. And then in the next 10 years, you are at the UN, making decisions on behalf of not just your country, but your region and the world at large. And this is where it starts from, and that is one thing that has really changed in the Gambian context.
Okay, that's very interesting there. You mentioned the awareness. Certainly, one can see that now people talk about the environmental damage far more than...
Especially in summer.
Than
everybody's
before.
planting trees in the summer.
That's it. But again, this awareness, is it really translating into action? When I see kids, they'll eat whatever, just throw it on the floor. I cringe. You see, funnily enough, when we were younger, planting trees, there was a Tacito philosophy which had an environmental aspect. We didn't call it that, but we were environmentally aware. Remember Independence Drive? So everybody knew about planting trees because we knew that actually it will provide a shade. This is a hot country, so you can walk from one end of the street to the other, walking in the shade, as it were. So we just lost it. There was something we knew, but we lost it.
Yeah.
So I suppose what I'm trying to say is, with you, with your group, how you see our issues, what would you say would be the achievable in the short term? There's so much that outside of our power, isn't it? International geopolitics, you were just going into them.
Yeah.
Within our power, what can be achievable in a short term, intermediate term, the longer ones, they will take care of themselves, take care of that.
Yeah.
What do you think is achievable, the low-hanging fruit? I would have thought the littering bit, but somehow it's not working. Look around us.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
The
is
low-hanging
the
fruit,
low-hanging, that sort of thing.
Yes.
So what is achievable, you
Definitely.
reckon? How do we go about it?
And yeah, I would say the actions are translating, the awareness is translating into action. There's this key concept about the whole environmental issue, especially in the African aspect. We call it indigenous knowledge. We've been living sustainably with the environment, and we still do. If you come to the African continent or countries like Brazil or even, small island countries, you find them feeding more on the forest without destroying it. Our villages, you go there, they cultivate and growing their own food. So we have more access to all of these things. So it's part of our values. And if you come into our religion, our traditions, it's part of our values, to take care, to nurture. And because we know we benefit from the environment, so we have to be able to give back to it. So it's a slow progress, and especially in the young people context, because if last year you didn't have 5 people interested in environment, and this year you have 5 volunteers, it's not only their work or their interest that changes, but their habits change. And we have this quote that individual commitment, and then you have individual commitment, and then global action, or you have local action, and then global impact. So that means we cannot be able to do we cannot be able to solve this problem without action from the people. So the short-term achievement, or what we can do, all of us can do it, and that is where it becomes an individual responsibility. Whenever you become aware, and sometimes you don't even need to read a book to become aware. It's there. We've been raised to be like that, at least in our cultural and religious context. We're not supposed to make our environment dirty. So if you hear about it, especially in the young people as in the children, catching them young, because I came to take charge of environment through the NEA Green School program, and then also in our school we were highly environmental conscious. We plant trees from grade 1, and then you grow up with it. Our garden was so
Which
green.
school was that?
Back at the proper.
Nice.
Yes. So our school was also so green that we don't buy fruits from outside. The garden had all kinds of fruit, and then whoever is going to do agric environment garden, the one on duties, you know that you're so active to do as a child,
because you were raised that way.
You're going to get some fruits also,
yes,
and then you're also going to get fruits, from the garden, because you have that access. So I think what is achievable in the short run is us being committing and doing our individual actions. If you have an idea to do, and also this is for every person in every age and in every and every background. If we have disableds in the Gambia here who are taking plastic, recycling it, making souvenirs out of them, making bags. ISO2C team, they're called Women Initiative Gambia, and they're women. We have green solutions. They're taking coconut waste. It's one of the biggest pollutants in the our vicinity in the urban Gambia, because they don't have most of the trucks, the waste collection system in the Gambia is a problem. So the ones that are selling in the Fajara end, the Bakau end, most of the time they have to collect it themselves, the trucks, and it's expensive. It's like you pay $3,000 to $4,000 a day to send it. So you have green solutions. They're currently creating bio charcoals from it. And they sell it very much. They even make the shisha small briquette packages. And all of these have been produced here. So we have young people planting trees. In the summer, we plant in hundreds of thousands of trees. One organization plants, 200,000 trees. There's Green Up, there's GA, there's a lot of other organizations in the country. And this is where it starts from, and this is what we've been doing, and this is what gets us to the level that we want. So I think the action, and for us to be able to, do it together, that is what is keeping us going. And of course the protests also as young people. So we also do those ones sometimes.
So thank you so much, Maimuna. So due to time constraints, Mr. Mbuch, we'll have to draw the curtains here. But congratulations once again for this recognition. It's huge, and we hope that the project continues, that it has another phase, because there's just a lot of women in the Gambia that are doing extremely well. They can go on and on and on. And it's not just Maimuna, Mr. Mbuch, it's just a lot of other women in different, 12 altogether, who are doing well in different sectors. And we need these things to be popularized so that young people will know that women are also taking action. They're doing what is expected. It's not what society defines us to be.
That's it, and you become a sort of consequential voice, as it were.
Model.
Be a kind of avant-garde that would change things. You just
Yeah.
don't want to repeat sort of the old madness. You know what I mean? Too much repetition is madness. You have to break.
It's a full circle moment for somebody like me, because being featured with people, my mentors, people who were teaching me and mentoring me at the same place.
You're like one of the youngest there.
Exactly, and it's a big full circle, and it's an inspiration. I'm not seeing myself provide inspiration to the young girls, but I'm being inspired myself
by the individuals recognized,
to be together on this platform, and it's through all aspects, from women in STEM, women in agriculture,
and everything.
Different people have been featured, and we
congratulations once again. So that is all we have time for till we come your way next week with another interesting program. Thanks for watching, and Mr. Mbuch, go get a cup of coffee.
Absolutely.
All right, see you.